Hey, how's it going? My name is Brody Springer, and this is the session 2 homework for Professor Zhang's class, Management 350. And we were given a prompt to work through. Here's the prompt. Here's our mission. You're a financial advisor helping a client plan for retirement. Your client just graduated from university and is 22 years old, making $65,000 per year. He plans to retire at age 65 and wants to save 30% of his income at every year end. You expect the inflation rate to be 2% per year and the interest rate to be 5% per year. You also expect his salary to increase by 3% per year. You suggest to him to invest 60% of his savings in stocks and 40% in bonds. You expect the stock to return 8% per year and the bond to return 4% per year. And then here are the following questions that we need to answer with the prompt. What would be the total amount of money he would have at age 65? What is the present value of this amount? What alternative plan would you suggest and why, with numbers to justify your suggestion? He also thinks that he might be able to put $1,000 more at the end of every year. How would this affect the total amount of money he would have at age 65? And then we're going to work through the driver framework for this question. And then if we move over to Gemini here, for the Divine and Discover for D, I said, here's the prompt that I'm working through, and my first goal throughout the problem is to define and discover all the information I need to continue on with the framework that I'm using to aid me. And here's the prompt. And the Gemini provided me with all the information that they took out of the question, client's age, retirement age, initial amount, and then all the rates that come with this this problem, and then some basic calculations that we need, like the number of years of saving, which is retirement age minus current age, the annual investment return, which is the weighted average of the returns from stocks and bonds, and then the present value, future annuity value, and then as we move on to R for the represent, I said, I know there are multiple equations that are needed to solve for the present value and the future value. Please provide me with all the equations I need to solve and explain what these equations are solving for. And they gave us the equation for future value of growing annuity, which is his salary growing, because his salary grows at a rate of 3% per year. And then they have the weighted average annual. And then here's the weighted average portfolio return. And then the present value, which is what we're going to use, and the future value down here. And then I also, for the R, I said, also provide me with a timeline of the cash flows before you write the code for this program. And then they provided me with the cash flow timeline with all the years going up to 65, and it adds 3% per year. Key points from this: starting salary 65 at age 22, and the number of periods is 43. 65 is ending value minus 22 is starting 43. And then as we move on to implement for the I part of driver, I said, okay, we now need to build a code that provides us with an analysis of how much money we will end with and what the value of the future amount would be if we had the money now. And they gave us a code. Here's the code that we started with. They have all the information beginning and all the calculations, number of years that it will be saving, which would be 43. And then here's the weighted average return. They calculate that. They calculate the future value of the growing annuity, and then the present value and the real rate, and then the future value. And then they print all the rest of it when you run it. And then I asked what the results are of this code, and it said we're total saving for 43 years. The calculated annual portfolio return was 6.4%. At the end, the first year saving amount at the end of year one was $20,085, and at the very end, it tells us that we have a final savings of $6,861,353. The present value of this money would be $1,100,000. 1,140,000. And the impact, if we go here, we asked 1,000 more at every single year. We'd be adding $220,000 more with the total amount of 7,882,000. And then the summary here, total amount age 65 would be that $6.8 million. Present value, the purchasing power of that retirement nest egg in today's dollars would be approximately 1,140,000, because today's dollars is worth more than the amount of the dollar in 65 years because of inflation. And then the impact of the extra 1,000, we'd get an additional $220,000. And then for the validate, IV for the validate, let's see here. I actually checked my work with a different AI, and it gave me a crazy difference, like $2 million different than what Gemini said. So I'm not sure if we can validate the Gemini calculations, but yeah. So if we go here, they said the future value of it would be $4 million. You would have $4 million instead of the $6.8 million that Gemini said. And with that extra $1,000 a year, we'd only be getting $149,000. So the calculations between the two could be off. But what I actually did was I copied the code on Gemini and copied it into ChatGPT. It has the same code, but it came up with $2 million short. So not sure if both AIs are wrong, or we can just estimate it, take the average of those two and say maybe we get a return of $5 million at the end value. And then let's see here. For the evolve part of driver, I said instead of that $1,000 at the end of the year, what if we did an additional 1,000 per month? How would this contribute to the present value of the total amount and the future value of these product calculations? And they provided with an updated code, adding on with that additional monthly saving of $1,000. Obviously, he would need to cut down his expenses more, or I don't know, find a new job that makes more money so he can afford that $1,000. But hypothetically, if he did add that additional $1,000 per month, we would see an additional, it's approximately $2.5 million more. Instead of that 1,000 per month, we only got the $220,000 here, which is an insane amount of money, with the total amount of the future value being $9.39 million. And then the present value of this $9 million, what it would be worth in today's money, would be $1.5 million, which is, I think, $400,000 more than what, $400,000 more than what it would be without $1,000 per month. And then finally, for the last R in driver, is insane how much money you could be getting if you invested your money per year into an account that's constantly gaining money, like your retirement account. Without the $1,000 per month, you're getting $7 million. Or if we average the ChatGPT and the Gemini, it's around $5 million, but $5 to $6 million. But it's crazy to think that without literally doing anything, like working extra, you're getting just $7 million into your bank account. Also, if you worked hard and saved that $1,000 per month instead of $1,000 per year, it's insane. It's $2.5 million more. So if you just save right and use your money wisely, then you could be a multi millionaire by literally doing